knees glow. Mama used to say, baby, for goodness sake, don't ever dim your light down low.
Get together with the community and donate books so that we can give them away. It's a real solution.
Your public lands, I make them safe, I make them clean, I make them operable, and I make them as user-friendly as possible.
The union is not just my advocate. They're our voice when we can't talk. They are my voice when I am so overcome with emotion I can't speak about the things we've endured.
AFT delegates, please welcome President of Texas AFT, Zeph Capo.
Good morning, fellow delegates. I must start off by acknowledging that many in our city are currently in mourning. As a longtime constituent of the 18th Congressional District, there's no person that I've voted for more times in my life than Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Congresswoman Lee was a giant in our community, and it's only become apparent, even more apparent to me now, how much she meant to others far outside of Houston. So I would ask that each of you join me in a moment of silence to recognize her life, her legacy, for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Thank you. May she continue to watch down on all of us. I must also say that we have no shortage of fantastic women leaders in the city of Houston. And I know that we'll be joined during the convention with my, though biased, favorite mayor, Anise Parker. And I'd also like to recognize that you will hear from later today my political mom in Houston, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. First, we must acknowledge that this convention takes place on traditional ancestral lands of the Atacapa, Karankawa, Kwahueltucan. Getting nervous. I did this perfectly backstage. And Ishtukna peoples. We honor their lives and cultures. We acknowledge the cruelty of settler colonialism that separated them from this land, and we commit today to remembering and teaching the true history of the state and the nation we live in so that we do not repeat mistakes and failures of the past. In continuance with that mission, we will start our general session tomorrow with a blessing from Aaliyah Johnson, the 2425 Alabama Coshada tribal princess. The Alabama Coshada tribe of Texas has the oldest reservation in the state, just about an hour and a half from here in the big thicket of deep East Texas. With that in our minds and in our hearts, I say welcome and bienvenidos a Houston. On behalf of our host committee, I'm honored and grateful to have the AFT family here in the Space City. Texas AFT and all of our Houston area locals welcome you. We're glad you're here, but I want to take a moment to acknowledge those in our AFT family who didn't feel comfortable traveling to Texas to be here with us. We sincerely understand their hesitancy because we live with the reasons for that hesitancy every single day. Over the past several years, we have endured escalating attacks on our most vulnerable neighbors and communities. So I can't fault anyone for thinking twice about coming to Texas in this moment. But this is also our home. This is where we raise our families. And despite our state government, we love our home. Thank you. I've said for years that Houston is the biggest small town I've ever been in. We are a friendlier, more open, and more progressive outlier within the state of Texas. We are proud to be one of the, if not the most diverse large cities in the country. And we are grateful for those of you who decided to join us in our amazing city. Because the 66,000 members of the Texas AFT who live here every day need your support. Not only do we endure everything the state's elected officials throw at us, we keep swinging. And we will never give up the fight for our members. We will remain in steadfast opposition to those in this state and across the country who try their best to keep working people down. The reason, as my friend and mentor, a friend and mentor to many of us in this room, Linda Bridges, said so well, because our kids are worth it. This is the 50th anniversary of the formation of Texas AFT, our statewide federation. It's a proud moment for us to be sure, and it's a moment of reflection, and one that I ask each of you to join me in. Frequently, we hear from the educators we first meet that there aren't unions in Texas. Often, educators in other states will tell us they don't understand how we organize down here in a right to work for less state. One without collective bargaining rights for public employees, one without the right to strike. Well, let me tell you, organizing in this state is not fun all of the time. We're in a constant struggle to fight forward for schools that help our kids thrive, while also fighting back against whatever heinous priorities Governor Abbott's donors hand him in any given month. Speaking of, and I say this with love to all of my AFT Pennsylvania family, y'all take Jeff Yass and his voucher money home when you go. We will cover the shipping. We are full up on meddling billionaires down here in Texas. And while organizing in Texas isn't for the faint of heart, it's the most meaningful work of my life. And it's some of the most important work of our union. And I don't say this lightly, as biased as I am, so let me explain just a little bit by talking about my home. 2 weeks ago, Hurricane Beryl tore through this city. Since then, Texas AFT and local unions in Houston have worked tirelessly to support our members who spent days and now weeks without electricity in a Texas-sized summer sauna. We've made deliveries of food and care packages to houses with trees on the roof and power lines in the yard. We've organized food drives and cooling centers. We've distributed thousands of dollars to members in need through our disaster relief fund, a fund that we've worried about potentially going dry because we just started the hurricane season. And we did that because it was the right thing to do. But we also did it because no one in charge of this state seems to give a damn. Do you know what this state's disaster infrastructure relies on? H-E-B, a grocery store chain. Do you know how folks along the Gulf Coast got updates on power outages across the region? The Whataburger app. Call me old-fashioned, but I tend to think the outage map from our energy provider ought to be a bit more reliable resource than a hamburger chain's map of open stores. But that's what you get when your public service is turned over to privateers and shareholder dividends become the priority instead of keeping the damn lights on. On Saturday, I was out with labor and community volunteers organized by the Gulf Coast Area Labor Federation. We spent the morning clearing debris out of neighbors' yards. You had teachers, plumbers, linemen, custodians, and other everyday folks out there taking care of one another because we knew no one was coming to save us. Do you know where our governor was during all this? On a different continent. As a hurricane barreled towards his state and its largest city, our governor flew to Asia for an economic development trip. The only reason he came back at all, it seems, is so he could jet off to Milwaukee to the RNC. It makes my blood boil, but it's nothing new. This is the leadership we've come to expect from Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and our perennially indicted Attorney General Ken Paxton. Admittedly, we are not sending our best. Those men may hold elected office, but I don't want anyone here to think that they represent most Texans. It's been said a million times, but I'll say it again. Texas is not a red state. It's not a MAGA state. It's a suppressed state. And in many ways, it's an oppressed state. And every day, the members of my union and our broad coalition of partners and allies are in the trenches working to change that. Not just for us, but for all of you too. Because here's the thing. No other state flipping their power structure would have more of an impact on this country than Texas. Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world. Last year, our state budget surplus was $32.7 billion, an amount larger than the entire budgets of 24 other states. Over 30 million people call Texas home, and nearly 5 million of them live right here in Harris County. If it were its own state, Harris County would be the 25th most populous one in the nation. And it would be a diverse one. Nearly half of our households speak a language other than English at home. Immigrants comprise a large share of the Houston population, the largest share compared to overall across the nation. Locally, Houston consistently elects pro-public education and pro-democracy officials. That is exactly why our state government is on a special mission to suppress the vote in Harris County. Every method our communities come up with to make voting simpler or more accessible is met with immediate legal challenges and new legislation to disenfranchise us instead. That's why they're so hot to take over our schools. If we can get Harris County to the polls at levels like other states, everything changes. As goes Harris County, so goes Texas. And as goes Texas, so goes the nation. You know, I mentioned earlier that Texas educators do not have collective bargaining rights. Any progress that we make on improving working and learning conditions in schools comes from direct action and advocacy of our members at their school boards and in the legislature. And that can be disheartening. Bargaining your contract with the Texas legislature is not an uplifting experience. But I don't have a lot of patience for anyone who writes us off. For anyone who says that's just the way it is in Texas, or makes excuses to let themselves off the hook for not stepping up. Apathy doesn't help us. Condolences don't help us. We have to keep up the fight. There is no reason the educators of this state cannot have the rights enjoyed by their peers in other states. Our union started in a Chicago basement in 1916. I think I hear Chicago. But our brothers and sisters and siblings in Local 1 didn't win collective bargaining rights until 1983. UFT in New York didn't bargain its first contract until 1962, during a time and in a place where union density was at its zenith. Those are places we consider union strongholds, and it still took decades to win the rights our members deserve and our locals to be able to flex their full might. We're just barely 50 years old here in the state of Texas, and many of our local unions around the state are much, much newer. In fact, we welcomed 2 new ones this year, in Brownsville, down in the Rio Grande Valley, and right here in Harris County in the Spring Independent School District. I'm here to tell you that in Texas, we may have a long way to go, but we have a history of punching above our weight class. Just ask Greg Abbott. I lost track of how many millions of dollars he spent last year calling special session after special session to try to pass his private school voucher scam. 11 months of legislating, of bullying members in his own party, of burning through taxpayer money, and he still didn't get it. He didn't get it because we mobilized over 26,000 of our members, their fellow educators, parents, and community allies to stop him. Our members paid for it with their own raises, which were tanked when Abbott's allies poisoned the last school funding bill left standing with a voucher. We did it. We made that sacrifice because much like our country, our public schools are at a do-or-die moment. We did it because we haven't given up on a better Texas, a stronger Texas. And yes, Linda, we political resistance. That is something we especially need when you live in a time and a place like we do. And over the next several days, I hope you're able to see a bit of our city and our community. Enjoy the food, the music, the culture, and the remarkable people of the city of Houston. I'm sorry about the weather. That ain't a dry heat out there. And if you're looking for recommendations, please stop by the HFT or the Texas AFT host tables, and we'll give you the local scoop. Welcome to Texas, and welcome to our Houston Convention, where y'all means all. Thank you. One last thank you. Give it up for our dancers from Northside ISD in San Antonio, Texas that performed for us this morning. Thank you, delegates.
To give us this morning's blessing, please welcome from the congregation Beit Simchat Torah, Senior Rabbi Emerita Sharon Kleinbaum.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today to help start the events of today by offering my deep gratitude. I'm honored to be on the stage today with Bishop Leah Daughtry, who is one of my spiritual teachers and leaders, and I'm proud to be the Rebbitzin here at this convention to my beloved wife, Randi Weingarten. And I'm very happy to be here. Faith and labor have a profound connection throughout this country's history. And I'm proud to be here representing those of us who believe deeply that God is on our side and that God believes in the fight that we all deeply engage in this convention, which is to ensure a fair and just work life for those who work in education, healthcare, and in the public sector altogether. We, gathered here today and representing so many more, are Sikhs, Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Jews, Wiccans, atheists, secular, and deeply ambivalent people about God and probably everything. So today our prayers represent all of us. Whoever you are, whatever you bring into this room, we join together to ask for help this morning. May the power who has breathed the very souls into us, may the universe itself give us blessing. May Allah, God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be with us. As the words of the Jewish scriptures tell us in the book of Esther, when Esther is ambivalent about taking steps she must take in order to save the people, Mordecai says to her, maybe in fact, it was for this moment you were born. Can we imagine that we are all on this earth to be here together in Houston on July 22nd, 2024, just when the first female president of the United States is in the process of being nominated? Maybe it is for this moment we were born to fight back against global authoritarianism, fascism, violence, and hatred of women, of LGBT, of immigrants, of people of color, in fact, of all of us. As the great Israeli peacemaker said, quoting the great American peacemaker A.J. Muste, Vivian Silver, who was killed on October 7th, said, "There is no way to peace. Peace is the way." Please, God, be with us as we embody your vision of the world we want to inhabit. May we learn from the Psalms to turn from evil, but that's not enough to turn away from evil, the psalmist tells us. Please, God, help us to also do good. Turn away from evil is only the first step. The second step is to do good. Please, God, give us the strength to turn from evil, to do good, and to seek peace and to pursue it. Psalm 30 tells us, weeping may come in the evening, but joy comes in the morning. May this convention be guided by justice and compassion and the vision of morality that believes in a just and compassionate world for all. And we remember always that that joy that will come in the morning waits for us to do the actions that bring hope alive. And may each of you in the course of this convention be the light in the world that we all need. One by one, your individual sparks will light the light that will lead us through the darkness of this moment in history and into a future we can bequeath to our descendants spiritually, biologically, and morally. Thank you so much.
To lead us in prayer, please welcome Bishop and Presiding Prelate of the House of the Lord Churches, Leah D. Daughtry.
Good morning, AFT. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Peace. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Hotep. Praise the Lord, everybody. From the book of Isaiah, the 58th chapter, the 12th verse. And you shall be called the repairers of the breach. You will restore the foundations laid long ago, and you shall be the restorers of streets in which to dwell. Let us pray. Our God, creator of heaven and earth, lover of peace, freedom, and justice, we thank you for this privilege and opportunity to gather today in your embrace and under your watchful and loving gaze. We thank you for trusting us with the important work of serving and caring for those in need. We gather at a critical time in our nation when we are at the crossroads of hopelessness and hopefulness, when the forces of good and evil so plainly battle for the hearts and minds of our people, when right is called wrong and wrong is called right, when up is called down and down is called up, when fake is called fact and fact is called fake, when it seems truth forever on the scaffold and wrong forever on the throne. And yet, even in the midst of this chaos and confusion, we see now a light on the horizon. And we are grateful. Grateful for hope, grateful for purpose, grateful for direction. You have called us, God, teachers, healthcare workers, and public servants. You have called us to this moment. You have called us to the front line to do battle, to wage war, to march together toward the light, to care for the most vulnerable in our society, to protect them and defend them, to honor and respect them, to see them and hear them, to be strength for the weak, a voice for the voiceless, hope for the hopeless, a path through the wilderness, and a light shining through the darkness. We know, oh God, that this is not and will not be an easy task. This path that we have chosen, this work that you have given us, but we did not choose to be teachers or healthcare workers or public servants because we thought it would be an easy job. We chose it because we had a calling. We saw a need, and we have strived to meet the challenge. As we gather these next few days, seeking to fulfill the responsibility of faithful citizenship, we ask for divine guidance to help us remember our calling, our vow to serve the least, the last, and the lost, the left out, the locked out, and the left behind, to be their voice, to be their hope, to be their strength, to be their light, to fight for them with conviction and with compassion, for them and for ourselves, for the work that must be done, for the bridges that must be built, for the children who must be saved, for the sick who must be healed, for the last who must be first. We ask for strength for the journey, clarity of thought, sharpness of vision, singleness of purpose, and the courage of our convictions to make the promise of America the practice of America. May we build the old waste places. May we raise up the foundations of our future so that in generations to come, we shall be called the repairers of the breach and the restorers of streets in which to dwell. Because we ask it in your name, we decree and we declare that it is so. And all of God's people say, amen.
Please stand for the singing of our national anthem led by Texas AFT Secretary-Treasurer Wanda Longoria.
Oh, say, can you hear by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing as Senior Vice President Secondary of the Houston Federation of Teachers, Renette Brown, performs Lift Every Voice.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song full of the faith that dark past taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
give a warm welcome to your AFT Secretary-Treasurer, Frederick Ingram.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Frederick Ingram, and I am proud and honored to serve as your AFT Secretary-Treasurer. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the AFT's 88th convention. Before I start, I want to give a quick shout out to my fellow musicians. Texas AFT Secretary-Treasurer Wanda Longoria, let's hear it. Houston Federation of Teachers Senior Vice President Secondary Randi Brown. And to the fantastic keyboardist Corey Gibson. Two very inspiring anthems, and I want to thank them all for coming. And now, I'd like to call this meeting to order. With the chair of the Credentials and Elections Committee, David Kazansky, from the United Federation of Teachers, come up and give your report.
Good morning, AFT. Lovely to see you again. The 2024 AFT Convention Credentials Report as of 7 p.m. Sunday, July 21st, 2024. Total number of delegates, 1,472 out of a possible 2,389. That is it.
Thank you, David. The credentials report has been moved. Is there a second? It has been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is carried and adopted. Thank you, David.
Please welcome from the 29th District of Texas, Congresswoman Sylvia R. Garcia.
Good morning. Welcome to Houston. Bienvenidos a todos. Well, first of all, what a weekend we have had. I told somebody earlier yesterday that I really wanted the weekend to end because first we got the very sad news of the death of a friend, a colleague, and a champion for the people, Sheila Jackson Lee of Houston. And I know that if she were here today, she would be right here with me to congratulate your organization and all your leadership for what you've been doing for education and for our children. Then we got the news, and for me it was sad news, because I was with Joe Biden 1,000%. So today I come here with a little bit of sadness, but certainly I respect his decision. And it's my view that his tenure as President of the United States will go down as one of the most remarkable, most impactful 4 years of any other President of the United States. Labor had no better friend at the White House. But we're lucky because his partner through it all has been Kamala Harris. And she will be the next President of the United States of America. She will be the first woman president. She will be the next president of the United States, period. And what a job she will do. You know, when somebody asked me, well, you think she can really do it? And I said, listen, Mexico did it before us. Hello, Mr. Trump, listen to that one. You didn't build your freaking wall. And Mexico didn't pay for it, and to boot, they've elected a woman president. So the last thing we need is a convicted felon as president of the United States. I mean, think about it. Kamala prosecuted and convicted felons. Trump was a felon, is a felon, will always be a felon. So my friends, I know I'm here to talk about education, but hasn't this whole weekend been a civics class? And we will all put President Biden down as the master on a leadership class on how to put country above self. Country above self. Just like you do in your schools every day, putting your children above you. And I know you do. I have teachers in my family. They always, they're always bugging me about giving them money for this or giving them money for that. Or when I go home to visit, they get me into doing some of the arts and crafts that they're going to do for the next, you know how it goes. So you give selflessly too. And it's good public servants like you that actually care about kids and are taking care, as I always like to say, of our little babies. And I learned at an early age that education was important. I'm one of 10 children. I grew up in South Texas, poor on a farm, having to work in the fields. I still remember we had to do chores before school and after school. My brothers would have to get up early in the morning at 5 to go milk the cows, clean up, and then we'd all go down the road to go catch the bus. And we did it every day, and if we didn't, my mother, well, in Spanish we call it, would give us a coscorron. I guess in English it's just a little knocker, because she knew that if we didn't get an education, we would end up in the fields the rest of our lives. She knew education was important. She knew education was an equalizer. She knew, without knowing, what the American dream was, because we're in South Texas, Spanish-speaking, small farming community. We weren't exposed to a lot of things, but she knew in her heart that with an education, we would do better. And I'm telling you, all 10 of us graduated from high school. And all 10 of us are contributing. Some of us went on to get other degrees. But it was the teachers that empowered us. It was the teachers in our small school that made sure that we stuck with it. Because public schools are the heart of all communities. Public schools matter. Public schools build opportunity. So despite our critical work, we know that the MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump and our Governor Abbott are there to try to destroy it, and they have done nothing but run education into the ground. In the past 3 years, more than 1,500 book bans have come from Texas. Across America, it's more than 14,000. Texas is at the bottom 10 in education. And when you're down that low, you shouldn't be going around banning books. And you know, we're last in quality of life. Greg Abbott needs to get a life. He needs to work on building our next generation. And The worst thing that our state has done is beat up on trans kids. It is just horrible, and no one should live in fear just because of who they are, especially our children. We must stand up for our students and have pride in our future generation. Our students need to know that when we say y'all, just like Zev Capo said y'all, it means all. All children will be educated. We should support and build up our public institutions and denounce the master plan that the Republicans have called Project 2025. It would abolish the Department of Education. It would weaken our public education system and is looking at a national voucher plan. And it would eliminate Title I and all the children's nutrition programs for schools. Essentially, they just want to do away with public schools, which means they want to fire y'all. I don't know about you. I certainly wouldn't like anybody that wants to fire me. So we are going to have to work hard, because it's not just our students that are being targeted. It is you in the classroom who are on the front lines. You're overworked, you're underpaid, you're underappreciated, and sometimes even slandered. Thousands of teachers have left their jobs because of this. And when I hear these numbers, it really, really saddens me. And it's not just because I have family members that are teachers, but because what are we going to do without a public education? What are our kids going to be able to turn to? They have no real choice. Their only choice is public schools, where public schools can be held accountable. You know, I've read about some charter schools that lease planes that have fancy this and fancy that. No, we want the priority to be the spending on our teachers, the support staff, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, the custodians. Everybody at a schoolhouse matters. So you go to work every day, I know, to build a better America. I know you put kids over cruelty, books over bullets, and people over politics. You are our heroes. We unite behind our teachers and all our school support staff to educate our next generation of leaders. And as the song says, we will march on. We cannot let Project 2025 and any other bogus master plan come to fruition. We've got to march on. We've got to continue the fight. We've got to protect our kids. We've got to protect our teachers. And we've got to fight like hell today, every day, until Election Day. Thank you all very much. Welcome to Houston. Thank you.
From the 32nd District of Texas, Congressman Colin Allred.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Texas. I want to thank AFT for welcoming me to be a part of y'all's 88th annual convention. Wow, that's amazing. I want to thank the organizers, and because we're folks who believe in working people, I want to thank the folks here at the staff here at the convention center. I'm Congressman Colin Allred. I'm from Dallas. I'm a fourth-generation Texan. I'm a father of two perfect little boys. And with y'all's help and God's grace, on November 5th, I'm going to beat Ted Cruz and become the next United States Senator from the great state of Texas. It's an honor for me to be here with this group of teachers and educators, because I come from a long line of teachers. My mom taught for 27 years in Texas public schools. My aunt, her sister, taught in Plano ISD. And my grandmother taught in San Benito, Harlingen, and Brownsville. Shout out to the RGV. And as y'all know all too well, we don't pay our teachers enough here in Texas. So growing up, being raised by a single mom, it wasn't always easy, and we struggled at times. On top of teaching full-time, my mom sometimes had to work a second job to make ends meet. And we relied on our community to help raise me. For us, that was the folks at our local YMCA, and the teachers and coaches at the good public schools that I attended in Dallas, who went above and beyond for me. I'm still friends with some of these folks to this day. It's because of them and hardworking people like each and every one of you that a story like mine is even possible. I always believed that everything I've achieved says more about the community that I come from than it does about me. The folks who set me on my path are heroes, and so are you. I've been shaped by every corner of the state. I grew up in Dallas, spent my summers in Brownsville. I earned a scholarship to play football at Baylor University in Waco. I trained for the NFL draft in Houston, played in the NFL, and went to law school and became a civil rights attorney, and came back home to Texas to protect voting rights here in this great state. Because of the folks across the state, I've been able to live my version of the American dream. And I'm running to be the next senator from Texas so that stories like mine aren't unique. I know the research shows us this, but I know this implicitly. There's no factor more important for our kids reaching their potential than the teachers who greet them every morning in schools across this great state and our country. It's because of you as educators. You give our kids the tools that they need to chase their version of the American dream. And you do it because you care. That's why I always fight for our public schools to get the funding that they need and deserve, to recruit and retain the best teacher workforce in the world, because there's no investment more important for securing our future. I'm also a proud former union member of the NFL Players Association. It's probably not too common to have a card-carrying union member running for the United States Senate. But one thing I can tell you is no one has got to tell me about the importance of being able to join a union or the freedom to organize, or the importance of being able to use your voice in collective action in pursuit of a better future. It's a fundamental right. It's a fundamental American right. And it's one that Ted Cruz does not understand. Ted Cruz is doing everything he can to make teachers' jobs harder by policing what's taught in our schools, by banning books, by waging one culture war after another. It's exhausting. When I was in the NFL, we had a word for guys like Ted. We called them me guys. Me guys are always looking out for themselves first. Ted Cruz is the ultimate me guy, which means he doesn't care about doing what's right for hardworking people. We need a senator who works as hard as our teachers do, as the single mom like mine does, as hard as every Texan does every single day. Not one that jets off to Cancun when the lights go out and 30 million Texans need him the most. Here in Texas and across this country, we can't afford 6 more years of Ted Cruz's divisive politics. That's why I'm running against him. And with your help, we're going to beat him. I want you to know that I will always fight for your rights, to ensure that you get a fair working conditions, and that our union members have the right to organize, to prioritize teachers, and the freedom to access a good public education like the one I went through from pre-K through graduation. I am a product of Texas public schools. I will support those schools and pave the way for higher education and job training so that every Texan has an opportunity to succeed. Because in my Texas, we believe that we is more powerful than me. And in this election, we have a choice between the ultimate me guy and somebody who will fight for all 30 billion of us. And I promise you that I will be that senator for the hardworking people of Texas and this country. So to all of you here this morning, for our teachers and the hard-working works across Texas, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your support. Let's bring freedom back to Texas and our country, and have a great convention. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Garcia, and let's thank Congressman Alred for all of their insights and their warm welcome. Well, delegates, it's so exciting to be here with you in Houston. We've already had 2 great community events. Yesterday, our beautification project at the Freedmen's Town in Houston's historic 4th Ward, we restored a prayer labyrinth. We planted lilies and did archaeological work. Then later in the day, we held the Texas Together We Rise Citizenship Clinic and Community Fair, where more than 70 people received free legal assistance with their naturalization application to become U.S. citizens, and hundreds of students. That's right. We also gave hundreds of students free books and backpacks and school supplies. Many thanks to Texas AFT, the Houston AFT locals, and all of the community partners who helped plan, volunteer, and host those events. As you know, the AFT is doing all we can to reduce our carbon footprint. We're printing less and doing more things electronically. With this in mind, please download the AFT Convention app for schedules, convention news, and more information as we go through the days. You can download the CVent Events app from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Search for AFT Convention 2024. And if you want to receive convention news alerts, text Delegate to 69238. Again, text Delegate to 69238 to get updates to your phone. Now, I want to go over some housekeeping items and important reminders for us all. Safety. Safety at the AFT Convention is our highest priority. There are about 3,000 of us here in the convention hall, and we want to make sure all 3,000 of us stay safe and healthy while we conduct the important business of our union. To that end, the AFT continues to follow the recommendations of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to provide a safe environment for members and guests at all AFT meetings. Please note these safety reminders and recommendations. If you are not feeling well, do not attend convention meetings or events. Let me repeat that. If you are not feeling well, please do not attend convention meetings or events. Masks are optional and voluntary. Please be respectful for those who choose to wear one. Self-administered rapid antigen tests are available upon request for any attendee who feels they need one. Stop by the AFT store in Hall B3 to receive a test. So while masks are optional, badges are not. Let me repeat. While masks are optional, badges are not. Please always wear your badge in the convention center and in other meetings that you have, whether it's here in Hall A3 or at the Real Solutions Hub or in the Resolution Committee meetings or at a luncheon or reception or another event. Wear your badge. There will be no admittance to any event if you don't have your badge. If you lose your badge, please go to the registration counter with your photo ID to get a new one. From past experiences, we know that while we are gathering here in this building for a positive, forward-looking agenda for our union, right-wing operatives may use this convention as an opportunity to secretly record or videotape our union members and leaders to demonize or misconstrue our words. So please make sure you're aware of your surroundings, who you're speaking with, and who you're around, especially outside of the convention center, at restaurants and in other gatherings. Please keep in mind that Texas is a one-party consent state, which means that only one party in a private conversation is required to consent to being recorded. The AFT Executive Council has adopted the AFT Code of Conduct, which prohibits discriminatory, harassing, or otherwise unacceptable behavior in the workplace and at any AFT activity, any meeting or event, even if the conduct has not risen to a violation of law. There will be zero tolerance for harassment of any form, including, but not limited to, the use of racial epithets, slurs, negative stereotyping, jokes, or threatening, intimidating, or hostile acts that relate to sex, race, age, disability, or other protected categories. This behavior will be called out. The AFT takes these complaints seriously and may, at its discretion, take action that it deems necessary upon assessing the situation. Possible responses may include warning to or expulsion of the alleged offender from the AFT activity, event, or meeting. The AFT is a democratic organization that values open, vigorous discussion of the issues facing the AFT, our members, working people, and the labor movement. The Code of Conduct is not intended to restrict free and open debate, but rather it is intended to ensure a positive and respectful environment that is free of discrimination and harassment, regardless of an individual's race, ethnicity, religion, color, sex, age, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, gender identity or expression, ancestry, pregnancy, or any other characteristic protected by law. We ask all meeting participants to conduct themselves consistent with the values of equity and equality. The AFT encourages you to report any offending conduct as soon as possible. There will be no retaliation or adverse action taken against an individual who makes a complaint. Reports may be made to Greer Hernandez-Curtis, our Human Resources Director, Tier Jones, our Chief of Staff, Daniel McNeil, our General Counsel, the designated manager for the meeting, or any other supervisor or manager. Their contact information is located in your program. Whew, that's a lot. Y'all still with me? All right. Good. So now that we've gotten through all of that, it is my great honor to welcome our 64 international guests from 22 countries and international organizations who have joined us this year. Would our international guests please stand and be recognized? Thank you, thank you, thank you. We truly appreciate our international family making the effort to come and share their experiences with us so that we all can learn from each other. Thank you again for being here. The international delegation is joining the AFT, Rice University, and Microsoft Corporation in learning about how technology will affect everything from the economy to education, healthcare to higher education. All of us in the classroom, in the hospital rooms, and in worksite across America, and in public services throughout the spectrum, need to be informed and aware. We also have leaders from our Overseas Federation of Teachers from Sigonella, Italy, and Manama, Bahrain. Welcome to Houston. And lastly, to our international friends, as always, we stand shoulder to shoulder with you on the front lines of the battles for democracy. Together, we are fighting back against the closing space of democracy in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and the Americas. And now, to bring us greetings from our international colleagues, it is my great pleasure and honor to invite my friend to the stage, the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, Magwenya Muleleki, and General Secretary of the Public Services Labor Independent Confederation, Annie Gowron.
Good morning, AFT. My name is Mugwena Maluleke from South Africa. I'm here today as the Vice President of Education International, our global union federation that brings together unions from around the world, representing more than 30 million teachers from nearly 200 countries. As a global voice of teachers and education support personnel, we champion free, quality, publicly funded education for every student in every country. I am especially proud to say that AFT was a founding member of EI, and that is why I wish to salute a fellow EI Executive Board member, my good and longtime friend, Randi Weingarten. For her years of outstanding leadership in EI. Randi has always been a major force in the defense of democracy and an advocate for peace, equity, social justice, trade union rights, and human rights. The AFT has seen a phenomenal and a spectacular successes and growth under her prolific, magnanimous, and thought leadership. Your numbers are our strength. Congratulations, AFT. Thank you, Randi, for your leadership. Today, I carry greetings from the leadership of Education International, especially from our President, Susan Hopgood, and our General Secretary, David Edwards, who have gone to Argentina, and they would have loved to be here in this convention, but they had to go and finalize preparations for our Congress. Our outgoing President, Susan Hopgood, is a champion warrior for trade union rights and for having been our leader for these many years. We want to thank you, Susan, for being a warrior in all that you have done for Education International and the teaching profession. I have been very excited to learn that the theme of the AFT Convention 2024 is real solutions. It is a theme that connects incredibly well with the teachers in my home country, South Africa. I want to thank AFT for lifting the key themes that educators must rally around in both our countries. Themes like promoting the skills of lifelong reading to be the foundation of educational achievement and success in life, and expanding the concept of community schools as hubs that meet the education, health, and welfare needs of learners and their families, and lifting the kind of classroom work that features learning by doing and prioritizes the real world, the real life skills. And of course, placing teacher and student well-being at the core of all we do. Most of all, I admire the AFT's never-ending fight to get the urgent support that our public schools need. In both our countries, we are demanding the immediate end to misguided austerity budgets, insane book banning and censorship, and corrosive political divisiveness. For more than a generation, my union, South African Democratic Teachers Union, has been at the forefront alongside the AFT ever since we joined together in the fight to end apartheid, in the campaign to defeat HIV/AIDS, and in raising the alarm over new technologies that today may threaten our students' well-being. What has always linked my union with the AFT is our belief that quality public education is the vehicle that anchors both of our democracies and creates opportunities for all our children. Thank you, AFT, for your years of friendship, and I look forward to many more years of working together. Best wishes for a successful AFT convention. Thank you.
Good morning, sisters and brothers in AFT. I'm very honored to be here, I think for the 7th time. My name is Annie Enriquez Heron from the Philippines, and I teach at the Graduate School of Lyceum of the Philippines University. And I'm a Vice President of Public Services International, where the AFT has a home along with 700 other workers' organizations in 156 countries, from grassroots movements to national union centers. Our 30 million members work in public administration. They are in health, social service workers, firefighters, medical first responders, public utilities, and regional and local government workers. And they work in education and culture workplaces such as libraries, museums, kindergartens, schools, community colleges, and universities. We believe that to serve the communities, public sector workers must have labor rights, decent pay and working conditions, and a voice in the management of the service that they deliver. But across the world, this belief is being attacked and undermined. Our workers have come to discover that the economy is not always working for them. Corporate interests have captured government policy, so they can get away with profiteering, privatization, tax dodging, and corporate practices, all at the expense of our frontline services. It is our duty to assert that public services, whether they are in schools, hospitals, or local governments, are the backbone of our societies. They build cohesion and solidarity, and when they are adequately funded and prioritized, people have faith in the institutions of government. And I want to give here a special shout out to AFT Healthcare. I understand that healthcare is one of the fastest growing parts of your union. In my home country of the Philippines, we, like you, find that our health professionals are at the breaking point. Hospitals were understaffed, in many cases, dangerously so, even before the pandemic. Caregivers are burned out, and far too many are migrating or leaving the profession. Unfortunately, guided by their desire to record revenue of remittances, callous executives in both our countries are putting their economic bottom lines ahead of the patient and patient care and safety. Sisters and brothers, this is the fight we are up against. Trade unions are amongst the biggest social movements in the world. We cannot let the far right, the profiteers, trample on our democratic values by attacking the most vulnerable members of our society. We must continue to uphold our role in building peace and defending democracy in the workplace, in our institutions, and in our societies. By making the voice of public service workers heard, we will capture the public imagination, challenge the narrative, and build our collective strength. For my sisters and brothers in the Philippines and on behalf of the public service workers around the world, we wish you a successful AFT Convention 2024. Mabuhay and solidarity, AFT!
Please welcome to the stage AFT Executive Vice President Evelyn de Jesus.
Good morning, AFT! I am so excited to be here today, and we got a great treat for you. So I am over the moon to have the honor of introducing our next speaker, a true legend in the labor movement and in the Latino community for over 60 years, Dolores Huerta has been one of my personal heroes since I first learned who she was. Back in 1962, many of you were probably not even born. Back in 1962, she and Cesar Chavez co-founded the National Farm Workers Association. Facing ethnic and gender bias, she helped organize the 1965 Delano strike of 5,000 grape workers that led to a nationwide table grape boycott. The boycott became a national civil rights effort that used nonviolent tactics such as marches and a hunger strike, drawing publicity far and wide. The pressure worked, and when the boycott ended successfully after 5 years in 1970, Dolores was the lead negotiator for the new United Farm Workers contract that followed. In 1973, she led another great boycott that produced the groundbreaking California Agriculture Labor Relations Act of 1975, allowing farm workers to unionize and bargain for better wages and better working conditions. Throughout the 1970s and the 1980s, Huerta worked as a lobbyist to improve workers' legislative representation. During the 1990s and 2000, she worked to elect more Latinos and women to political office. When President Barack Obama awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2012, he remarked, and he said, quote unquote, borrowed one of her most famous phrases for his own primary campaign. Do you know what it is? Sí se puede! Sí se puede! But it's this quote of hers I want us to think about. Every moment is an organizing opportunity. Every person a potential activist. Every minute a chance to change the world. Every minute I have a little bochinche for you that not a lot of people know. Do you know that Dolores Huerta was a teacher? So today I give you the icon, the teacher. I give you Dolores Huerta.
Good morning, teachers and support staff. Thank you very much for having me with you at your convention this morning. I just want to say that I and so many people in our country are so grateful to you for all that you do. And it would be wonderful if teachers could be compensated, could get the support services that they need, so that you and get better pay. Get better pay. Because you are really the soul of our country. You are the ones that are keeping freedom alive. And we know that your job is even harder now than it has ever been in the past. And so these are the things that we have to fight for. I think it's wonderful to see that in our country we are taking your cue and we're going to work for a female president of the United States and you have shown that path with your wonderful President Randi. Give her a big applause. You have set the example. But you know, there is so much to do. And one thing that we do know, that the division in our country, a lot of it is caused by racism, okay? A lot of it is caused by racism. You know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, racism is an illness in our society and something that we have to cure. And I do believe that there is one way that you, as educators, can help us do that. And that is to remind all of us that we are one human race. We are one human race. In all of your teaching, if you could take some time in your teaching to teach children and students and everybody to say that we are one human race. And one way that we can do this is to remind everybody that our scientific name for our human race is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. I remember learning that, I think, in the 3rd grade, and it stuck with me throughout my life. But the other thing that we know is that our human race began in Africa. Our human race began in Africa. And somehow, I don't know what that got left out of our curriculums. And we have to go back to that. Because if we can remember that, and as the human race traveled across the planet, we lost our color. People got lighter skin, different color hair, different color eyes. But at the end of it, we are still humans and one human race. But if we can remember this, and remember this, that when we say we are one human race, that means that we are all the descendants of Africa. So I would like to ask you to just do something very, very simple. Take the hand of the person next to you right now. Take the hand of the person next to you. Turn to that person and say, "Hello, African relative." Yes, let's do that. Make sure that we do this in the classrooms. Make sure that we do this in our families, because this is one way that we can take one giant step to make sure that we end that division in our country. Because when we see where the division is at, and then we can see the lack of education. So people in many of the southern states of our United States of America, they were taught that there was not a civil war, that it was a war between the states. They were not taught that it was about ending slavery. Slavery, that means that somehow people should have to work for nothing to make other people rich. We know that this is wrong, and this is why people need labor unions. And we know that places in Texas and other parts of the southern part of the United States, people do not have those protections of labor unions like they should have. So we have so much work to do. I say to people, can you imagine if we were in Nazi Germany in the 30s, when fascism was coming into that country, what would we have done? I think all of us would have said, I'm going to do everything I can in my power to make sure that fascism does not exist. We see this happening in our United States of America, where people have said it, they have manifested it, they have put it in writing in Project 2025. Yes, they want us to have an authoritarian government. They want to have a dictatorship. But we know that we cannot permit that, and we're not going to let that happen, right? We're not going to let that happen. And our public schools, of course, is their first place of attack. They are trying to dismantle the public education system in our country. In my organization, the Dolores Huerta Foundation, we actually had to sue and continue to sue right now to stop some of these charter schools that are coming in that are not going to provide children the educational system that they need. We had to sue in Bakersfield, California, our current high school district, because they had expelled 2,500 students in 1 year, primarily students of color. We won that lawsuit. And they had to change their practices. So from 2,500 expulsions, we got that down to 21 per year. And that's the way that it should be. But so we are fighting for the soul of our public education system, but we are fighting for the soul of the United States of America. And you, the teachers, the educators, you are the Marines, you are on the front lines. So somehow we have to include in our educational system, yes, that boys and girls are equal. Yes, we may not be as physically strong, but we are equal. The girls are equal to boys. We have to include in our curriculums also, yes, that there is a third gender, and yes, people may be gay, lesbian, or transgender. We have to include that. We have to include labor studies. We have to include ethnic studies. But yet, we have to include civics also. Someone, from the time that young students are in elementary school, they have to learn about voting. This is so important. Somehow, I don't know where it got left out. But to me, it's always amazing when I meet people who are college graduates and they do not know how our legislative system works. They do not know how our systems work to pick our candidates for political office. So there's a big miss in our educational system, and we have to start changing that. But we know that one of the reasons that it's been so difficult is because you, as I said before, teachers are not getting the kind of support that you need. The way that our educational system is funded is wrong. Yes, we have to fight to change that. When we look at our national budget in the United States of America, which is our biggest budget that we have, it's the Defense Department. The Defense Department. How is our educational system funded? By property taxes? You know, this has to change. So we have to look at ways that we have to say our educational budget needs to be bigger than the defense budget in the United States of America. If we do not fund our educational department as the way that it should be funded, then the ignorance will continue, the division will continue, the hatred will continue, and we cannot allow that to happen. We have to save our democracy, and our democracy begins with our educational system in the United States of America. And you are the ones that are going to make it happen. You are the ones that are going to make it happen. So, you know, Cesar Chavez used to say, when students are in school, they learn about history because they read about history, they talk about history, they write about history. But you, the educators, because you have such a great influence, I mean, you actually reach hundreds of minds, not only students, but their parents. So your influence is so huge. So we have to say, yes, we want to teach about history, but no, you and everyone that you touch are the ones that are going to make history. You are the ones that are going to make history. So please think of your roles, how important you are. You are the foundation of our democracy. You are the ones that are going to save it. You are the ones that are going to fight for it. And all of us working together, I know that we can go forward and we can create a just society without all of the discriminations that we have, that we are right now challenging and trying to change, and we can all do it together. I would like to ask you to do something very special. I would like to ask you all to stand up. I know you've been sitting down for a long time. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I know that you do know the answers. And please wait for me before you answer, okay, before you respond. I'm going to ask you who's got the power, and I want you to say really loud, we've got the power. And when I would say what kind of power, I want you to say people power. Because it is the people power that we can win over all the fascists, the corporate interests out there that are trying to keep our country ignorant. And we're going to say, can we do it all together? Yes, we can. But we know, I want you to shout really loud so all the haters out there can hear us, okay? So let's go. I'm going to ask you, who's got the power? What kind of power? Are we going to work all together to stop the fascism, to save democracy in the United States of America? What do we say? ¿Se puede? ¿Se puede? Let's all do it together with an organized clap. Let's go. Sí se puede. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Sí se puede. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Unbelievable patriots.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
That every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom.
They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia. They're poisoning the blood of our country.
Several bills that would ban and criminalize certain abortion procedures.
The fact that I was able to terminate Roe v. Wade after 50 years of trying.
School choice is a winner for everybody except for Randi Weingarten. And there's nothing the teachers union monopoly can do about it. They can go cry about it a little more.
Randi and all of her allies kept finding excuses to not reopen schools.
The unions are not only hurting the teachers, they're in turn hurting the children, are they not?
Let the door kickers actually run the show.
I would just make the entire thing a referendum on groomers.
When others create despair, we're dreamers. When others create fear, we hope. When others try to get us to be silent, we tell stories. When others smear us, we find solutions.
We have 14 programs that do some real-world hands-on learning.
We take them outside and we're literally grading our high schools based on your four-year college acceptance rate. I'm sorry, why is that a prerequisite to show what a good school is?
This is a national model, so that we can have that advanced manufacturing framework and curriculum for not only Central New York, but for the United States of America.
Because of this program, showing students that they can be a NICU nurse or they want to be an ICU nurse, it is such a huge solution to the code red that we have going on right now.
Learning is actually doing hands-on activities. It's actually getting in, feeling things, tapping into different senses.
Wow.
We could do something to hold it up.
Community schools helps to make sure that our students have everything they need to succeed and make sure that if there's any barriers to success, that we're literally tearing them down.
Gone are the days where schools are just academic centers. And it is imperative that social safety nets must be part of the school curriculum as well. There's better attendance. And you're also seeing the benefit of teacher retention. Teachers want to be in community schools.
I see the brilliance of my students if given that opportunity to overcome those obstacles that they face, that wraparound services can help.
For us in New Haven,
One real solution is making sure that teachers have the support and tools they need so they can prevent burnout.
How do I support myself while supporting the kids? It's a lot.
Bringing teachers together to talk about what causes burnout is not only going to benefit our students, our classrooms, and our schools, it's going to make our union stronger in the long run as well.
This is about making sure that there's dignity and respect for the work that you do.
We can only achieve our vision of schools as a place where all students thrive when our paraprofessionals have fair wages, benefits, and working conditions.
Classified staff are really the glue in every different direction you need to go. It's our classified staff probably being the one doing the work, getting those kids engaged. They're the ones that get them to the teachers, and they're the ones that get them home to their safe grown-ups.
Right now, it's a crisis, a code red situation.
What do we need? Staffing. When do we need it?
Now. We are part of a national movement to address the staffing crisis by proposing state-by-state legislation for safe staffing.
30% of the nurses left the bedside in a single year. You have 7 patients and one of them codes. Who's going to take care of the 6 patients?
We are sick and tired of during yet another shift of verbal abuse and or physical violence against us.
We're past its end. I go to work terrified. We just want to be able to do our jobs.
And we're here for one reason and one reason alone, and that is because Brooklyn needs downstate.
New York needs downstate.
This hospital has a role to play in Brooklyn.
As others create chaos, we create community. As others ban books, we give them out.
And at first I always thought like, oh, banned books, those are the bad books. But when you look at the list of what's being banned, it's like, Anne Frank.
This is needed specifically in Florida because we have a problem. We have a governor and we have a commissioner of education who is trying to ban books.
AFT is bringing real solutions to the children and the community. The books are great. We have parents and we have administration working together with the American Federation of Teachers, doing a great job.
So wonderful that the union is partnering with schools in the communities.
All coming together to make sure that kids are learning how to read.
Dreams are coming true every single day as we give out our 10th million book.
10 million books!
Whoa, look at that effect.
I paid for years, I paid on my loans, and the balances never seem to go down. AFT has been working on this for years. They're shining a light on the injustice.
I've seen the huge impact that the public service loan forgiveness has had on our faculty. It's just been life-changing for our people.
It gave me the opportunity to buy a home.
That extra $680 a month can now go towards paying for things for my kids. Oh, you want to do basketball? We can do basketball.
This is life-changing for so many people.
We got here because of fighters, and particularly the American Federation of Teachers. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's right.
On behalf of the 1.7 million members across this country that are AFT and AAUP, we stand strong with you.
I hope that people understand this is about students and the quality of education. If you don't pay your teachers well, you degrade the quality of education.
I work at 3 different schools, and as an adjunct, I have to make ends meet.
You're counting your grocery money. You're deciding whether you're going to be able to make rent that month.
We have a climate issue. The transition between diesel and electric has to be done in a just way.
New at noon, Boston Public School buses will be going green. The district is rolling out as many as 20 electric school buses next school year.
It hurts me deeply to think that a university is becoming a place where you can't speak freely about what's happening in the world.
I think that a real solution to this crisis is dialogue and engagement.
And whether we agree with everything that's going on every campus,
We must agree with the First Amendment right to free expression wherever and whenever.
Keep it free. Let the teachers teach.
We are not afraid to tell the truth.
They don't think we deserve our own funds, our own schools, and our own democracy.
So congratulations to...
Now we can progress with what we've been fighting for so long.
Thank you, AFT. I would not have won this race without you.
Democrats in Virginia will have control of the state legislature and the governor's office for the first time in more than 2 decades.
Moms for Liberty, the 1776 Project, lost around 70% of their endorsed races.
They're not the neighbor who's running for school board, who you see in the grocery store, who cares about our kids in public schools.
It's not just about the fight back. It's about the fight forward. This is a race between hope and fear, between aspiration and despair. We will win if we give people hope. We will win our democracy back if people vote.
Good morning. My name is Amy Donofrio, and my whole life I've wanted to be a teacher. And for 13 beautiful years, I was. 9 of those years were in Jacksonville, Florida, in a Title I school. Got some Jacksonville people? In a Title I school named after a Confederate general, Robert E. Lee High School, where the student population is predominantly African American. Many of my students at that school experienced homelessness, had incarcerated parents, or had lost loved ones to murder. And while society often mislabeled my students as at risk, they decided to see themselves as at hope. My amazing students and I have given a TED Talk. We've presented at the White House and at Harvard 4 times. And as students expressed increasing racial trauma at our school, I posted a Black Lives Matter flag on the entryway to my classroom. It was a symbol of my students' humanity and a sign that my classroom was a safe place. But in 2021, as Florida became ground zero in the culture wars, I was abruptly reassigned and placed under investigation for this long-flying Black Lives Matter flag. The DeSantis administration made an example of me as a part of their war on woke. While I was still employed, his education commissioner gave a speech bragging that he made sure I was terminated. They didn't stop at taking my job. The Florida Department of Education came after my teaching license. What followed were the hardest 3 years of my life. I was being investigated by the same person who gloated about having me fired without a shred of evidence, using the state's vast resources. The harassment and threats were relentless. I could not have gotten through this without the union. The legal team and moral support I had from them every step of the way. It should have been impossible to win with the flag in Florida, but we fought like hell. And last month, in a landmark ruling, we won. Thank you. I never expected that the president of the National Union would be a part of my legal team, but she was. Randi Weingarten helped craft our winning legal strategy. She called me and said, Amy, we are going to win this because we care about each other and about everyone's humanity. I am honored to add my voice here as we introduce a person who has made a difference in so many lives, including mine, because she has the audacity to care.
Good morning, AFT family. My name is Raquel Webb Geddes, and I am a proud member of UFT. When I was asked to introduce Randi, I thought back to the last time I saw her, which was when I was taking blood pressures at an AFT 10 million book giveaway. Bet you didn't guess that. No, she didn't fall ill. I was there because you all know, like I do, that we don't just do book events, our healthcare events, we do community events. If kids and their families are already there, why not conduct health screenings? Register them to vote, help them with citizenship applications. Community work is union work. During the pandemic, I remember seeing Randi on the news every other day advocating for adequate PPE for healthcare professionals because many of us on the front lines didn't have the protective gear we desperately needed. So Randi took it in on her own hands. AFT purchased 500,000 N95 masks, 50,000 face shields, and 1 million surgical masks for all healthcare workers to keep us and our patients safe. She was speaking my language, 10 toes down for what's right and what's needed. That's how I approach my work. When our soon-to-be retired or recently retired members need support in their aging journey, I'm there teaching UFT's Ready or Not curriculum, covering advanced care plans, how to monitor diabetes tests, designate a healthcare proxy, all the things people deserve to grow old gracefully. When it's lobby day, I'm right there to remind legislators that they work for us and not the other way around. I even lobbied in D.C. on my birthday, which is sacrilege, which I swore to never do because I know how important it is to speak out against Medicare and Medicaid cuts to home care. Something I know is near and dear to Randi's heart because of her late father. I do this work because I understand the thread between healthcare and political advocacy. I can hear Randi saying, educate, educate, educate. We have to keep fighting. We're in this together. We're all skilled professionals in our respective fields. We all care about community, and we all want a better world for the next generation. I can think of no one better to lead us in this fight than Randi Weingarten. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Jessica St. Paul. I'm an educator, physician assistant, a doctor of medical science, a proud member of AFT Los Angeles College Faculty Guild, Local 1521, a wife and a brand new mommy. I can list the first few titles on my resume because I took out student loans to pay for my education. But that last one, the most important title I will ever have, is mommy. I can list Randi Weingarten and our union stood up to my loan servicer, Navient, and that Betty DeVos for her botched implementation of public service loan forgiveness program. And because Randi did that, I had $144,652 in student loans forgiven. I can afford to have a family and build generational wealth. You know, I was 80% of the way toward having my student debt discharged, or so I thought. But when I found out at an AFT debt clinic that none of my payments I had made qualified because I had been steered into forbearance by Navient and in the wrong repayment plan. I was devastated, but I was not alone. It was my local union president who first mentioned Randi, saying that, you know, when Randi Weingarten is committed to doing something, she will see it through. And that she did. I live in Los Angeles, so I am never starstruck, but I kind of am when it comes to Randi. She is called to personally thank me for being a plaintiff in the Navient case, for introducing President Joe Biden when he announced $1.2 billion in student debt forgiveness, and that was just only 2 weeks after my daughter was born. For helping members of my union get their student loan discharge, which we are now at $7.8 million because of student loan repayment form that was led by AFT. It is my turn to thank you, Randi, for leading the charge on public service loan forgiveness, for always fighting for what is right, and for always reminding us that in AFT, we are not alone. It is my honor, my privilege to join my union sisters in introducing our president, Randi Weingarten.
Weren't they amazing? Can I move the mic? Is it okay? Is it okay? Because, you know, I am still short, even with this. So, look, you know, I want to say thank you to Amy and Raquel and Jessica. I mean, these are our members. These are you in the delegates. And I also want to say thank you to our hosts, can't even speak right now, the Texas AFT. Yeah. The Houston Federation of Teachers. You saw some of those amazing Houston public servants and Texas public servants, including Zeph Capo, who are not going to quit. And if they're not going to quit, we're not going to quit. I understand that Anise Parker, the former mayor of the city of Houston, is with us today. Thank you, Anise. I also want to thank, and look, you saw a couple of them already. I mean, really, Dolores Huerta here, amazing. But I want to thank our speakers. Sean Fain will be here later in the week. We have President Biden was supposed to come on Thursday. He may still come. We may have a surprise guest by video or otherwise. We don't know. But I want to thank our speakers, our students, like those amazing San Antonio dancers, the union staff who has done, look, how many plagues can you fight in the same week? And I'm sorry of all the delays for all the folks who have been delayed, but they are trying their best to get everyone in. I also really want to thank the staff of the convention center and of our hotels for doing everything they can to make our lives who they are. I have two more thank yous. One is to all of you for being unionists, for understanding this movement and this moment. And the last person I want to thank is my wife. You notice she's doing double duty today. She is retiring in the next few days as the senior rabbi of the largest LGBTQ synagogue in the world. She started 32 years ago as the first openly gay, probably faith leader, certainly rabbi in the world. And I don't know where she is. Oh, there she is. This is giving back what she gave to me a few weeks ago. She, at one of the retirement honorings, tributes for her, she got up and said, it's really not easy to be the wife of a rabbi. And let me just say, it is really not easy to be the wife of a union leader, particularly me. Thank you, Sharon. I owe you big time. So, we've been talking about books a lot, but I'll get to that in a sec. As you can imagine, my speech changed a lot in the last few days. But I do want to first and foremost thank President Biden. I don't have tissues with me. I should, unfortunately. He's been a great president. He's a great public servant. What he did this week is incredible patriotism. And we owe him that debt of gratitude. And then I'll get to some books. And of course, and some of you have heard me this year, you know I'm very fond of this book, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I don't think they've banned Dickens yet. Not yet, right? But there is a paragraph. The whole paragraph is amazing, but I'm just going to read a line from it. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. Now, these words were written more than 165 years ago, but today feels very Dickinsonian. Maybe I should say Dickensian. Today, our union has never been stronger, and a revival of labor activism is sweeping the nation. Wages are up. Inflation has cooled. The Biden-Harris administration has created more jobs than any other in history. And America's economy is the strongest in the world, powered by America's workers. Yet, and you know this as well as I do, fear, anxiety, and despair have taken hold across our country, driven by disinformation, shifting demographics, loneliness, and a pervasive feeling that the American dream is slipping further and further out of reach. Our students and our patients are coming to us with greater and greater needs. Academic freedom and the right to peacefully protest have come under attack. From floods to famines to fires, climate catastrophes are worsening. Hate crimes, particularly anti-Muslim and anti-Jewish hate, are climbing. And gun violence still haunts us. Let's be crystal clear. Political violence is never justified. Not on January 6th and not against political candidates. And while the calls to condemn political violence were encouraging, billionaires and demagogues are still capitalizing on fear to stoke division, to fund public education and public services, decimate healthcare, and dismantle our democracy, all to cement their power. And the Supreme Court's extremist majority is aiding and abetting them, rewriting the Constitution in terrifying ways. Operatives like Christopher Rufo, who work on behalf of billionaires like Betsy DeVos, openly admit their scheme: create distrust in public education and in their political enemies so that they can enact their extremist agenda. Now, these, for those of you who have been here and with us for more than a nanosecond, these are not the first unscrupulous operatives we faced. We've been outspent, bet against, and had our union's obituary written more times than we can count. Remember this one? Michelle Rhee tried to sweep us away. And then there was Scott Walker, who tried to legislate us out of existence. Billionaires backed the Janus case to try to bankrupt us. A red wave was supposed to crest in 2022 and wash us away. Mike Pompeo tried to vilify us, first claiming that America's school teachers teach filth, and then calling me the most dangerous person in the world. Wait, hear this. More dangerous than Vladimir Putin. And why? Because I'm your elected leader. But we're still here. In fact, we're thriving. And I guess that old saying is true. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And in our case, my friends, bigger. The AFT had 1.4 million members when I became president in 2008. Since then, we've been through 2 recessions, 1 pandemic, and all the crap I just described. And despite everything that has been thrown at us since our last convention, the AFT has added 185 new units and more than 80,000 new members. And today, the AFT is 1.8 million members strong. So, who are the newest members of the AFT? 4 airport ground crew in Bangor, Maine, and 450 TAs at Brown University. 9 LPNs at Peace Health in Oregon, and 910 diagnostic imaging techs in Michigan. Bus drivers in Farmington, Illinois, and faculty and staff at universities in Kansas and Hawaii. Healthcare workers at Planned Parenthood in Wisconsin, librarians in Ohio, doctors in Maryland, charter school educators in Massachusetts, and paraprofessionals in Minnesota. Yeah, 185 new units. And thousands more who just want a better life, including, after a 50-year fight, the 27,000 educators and school staffs in Fairfax County, Virginia. Why do they join the AFT? Because AFT believes in improving people's lives. Because AFT believes in our communities and our country. And because AFT believes in you. You. The growth is essential. America's middle class has risen and fallen as union membership has risen and fallen. That's why we, indeed the entire AFL-CIO, are working to grow. Our unions help us win better wages and benefits. Our unions give us real voice at work. It's how the UFT, I know they're in the House, negotiated. I just didn't want you to think I forgot you. It's how the UFT negotiated groundbreaking paid parental leave and lower class sizes. It's how Cleveland got their new policy prohibiting students from using cell phones during the school day. UTLA won sustainable community schools, and the Chicago Teachers Union is negotiating for healthy, safe, green schools. And we started this last year, and we have these at the back of the room for all of you, because it is about the value of belonging. So much that we do and that you do to try and create a better life for all. Now, you're never on your own in our union, especially during life's hardest moments, like when we lost 2 members of our union family from Farmingdale, New York. Band director Gina Pelletier and retired teacher Beatrice Ferrari were chaperoning a band trip when their bus crashed, killing them and injuring several students. Chaperoning, coaching, advising clubs. Our members perform so many unsung labors of love. Their memories are a blessing. And thank you, Cordelia Anthony, for being here, the president of our Farmingdale local. And look, you just heard from Amy, who is one of my personal heroes. Amid the surging culture wars, the AFT made a promise to defend any member like Amy Donofrio who gets in trouble for teaching honest history or meeting the needs of our students or our patients. So many of our members feel alone and bullied. So many are walking on eggshells every day. So, in addition to Amy's case, in May, we won an important case when a New Hampshire law designed to stoke fear about teaching history and having any discussion about gender, race, and identity was ruled unconstitutional. I thought I saw them. 2 of the plaintiffs are with us today, Ryan Richmond and John Doobie. Thank you very, very much. Then there's Karen Martyr, a teacher at Hillcrest High School in Queens, New York. Days after the October 7th Hamas massacre, Karen posted a photo of herself on Facebook holding a sign reading, "I stand with Israel." Shortly afterward, there was a riot at Karen's school targeting her and calling for her to be fired. Now, Karen's a great teacher, Karen had a choice to transfer to another school. But she returned to Hillcrest, and with a Palestinian friend and fellow teacher, she met with her students. She talked to her students. She used her experience to model how to counter hate, how to combat intolerance, how to debunk misinformation, and discuss challenging topics. That is what teachers do, and thank you, Karen, for being here today. There she is. We believe a better life for all is possible, and we act on that belief through our Real Solutions campaigns, fighting for our communities, fighting for each other, fighting for our values, fighting for the kind of country and the kind of world we want. So remember, during COVID, we celebrated healthcare workers as the heroes they are. Yet many healthcare corporations betrayed them, failing to protect the safety and health of nurses, technicians, doctors, and other health professionals. We didn't just get angry, we acted. Through our Code Red campaign, we're fighting to combat burnout and violence against healthcare workers and to improve patient care, and we are winning. New safe staffing laws in Oregon, Connecticut, and Washington, and new contracts in New York and New Jersey. It's amazing what you all have done. We're targeting private equity conglomerates that buy up hospitals and bleed them dry without regard for patients or healthcare providers. And then let's go to our support staff. Schools and colleges would not function without paraprofessionals and support staff. Okay, do this with me. They clean it, cook it, fix it, drive it. But too often, they are denied a living wage, affordable health care, safe working conditions, paid family leave, or meaningful professional development. Yeah is right. And while some locals have made progress through bargaining, we need to nationalize this fight. So, we're calling for a Bill of Rights for support staff in schools and colleges, and we're working with members of Congress to pass it. Speaking of raises, teachers need them too. And so do public employees. They protect our communities and environment, and they make government more effective. But an understaffing crisis is stretching public employees to the breaking point and endangering lives. In New York State, for example, dire staff shortages have affected crucial services like the Child Abuse Hotline. Correction officers in Kansas have had to work mandatory double shifts for months on end. In Colorado, the shortage of nursing staff in state facilities has resulted in patients with mental health conditions being housed in prisons. So, using the new report from AFT Public Employees, we are launching a campaign this week to combat all of this. As you can see, we've been a little busy. Speaking of colleagues who need our help, let's talk higher education. We're fighting for investment and the freedom to teach, and we're fighting against precarity and the endless attacks. Yeah, our new higher ed campaign is about access, academic freedom, and affordability for all students, and ending the adjunctification that higher ed faculty face. And I will repeatedly say the following. Expression, including that with which one disagrees, must be protected for a democracy to thrive. As we all know, the Hamas-Israel conflict has tested this. But we can and we must fight hate, ensure people on campuses are safe, and protect nonviolent speech. That's what our members from Rutgers, Northwestern, and the University of California did. When their college presidents testified before Congress, they were there to make sure the presidents acknowledged their responsibility to protect the right to peacefully protest and the rights of students and faculty to be safe. We're fighting back against the addictive and predatory practices of social media companies, demanding that they protect, not prey on children. And we're focusing on artificial intelligence. AI can be a powerful tool, but there must be strong guardrails like the AFT recently laid out. We're also imagining how to harness its potential with both Share My Lessons, AI Educator Brain, and AFT Innovation Fund grants. The fight for real solutions don't end there. And I know it makes my speech longer. I know some of you are betting on it. I know it makes it longer to do and to talk about all these, but it is really important for our members to see themselves in our work and in our fights. So, you heard from Dr. St. Paul already about the fight we have fought to have the federal government keep its promise to teachers, nurses, and other public service workers for student debt relief. Let's be clear. Donald Trump and Betsy DeVos refused. 99% of public service workers who tried to get debt relief were rejected. It's why the AFT sued DeVos and the student loan giant Navient for conspiring against borrowers. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have kept that promise. In 3 years, close to 1 million public service workers have had $69 billion in loans forgiven. And in terms of our members have saved an average of $60,000 a member. I hear from AFT members all the time, many of whom have participated in the AFT debt clinics, and many of you who want to create them, we want to help you. But I've heard from people. They can now buy a home, start a family, send their own kids to college, and retire with dignity. But the student loan system remains dangerously vulnerable to the whims of predatory student loan companies, first Navient and now Mohila, the latest company to line its pockets while refusing borrowers the relief they're owed. So this morning, as we were here, the AFT went to court, filing a consumer protection lawsuit against Mohila. We won't stop until every borrower gets the forgiveness they deserve. Public schools, you've heard this all morning, are essential to our children's future and to our democracy. Every public school should be a place where families want to send their children, educators want to work, and all students thrive. That's our North Star, and it guides our K-12 campaign, Real Solutions for Kids and Communities. We have a vision of what schools can be. It starts with helping our kids love reading. It's why we invest in tools to help teachers be fluent in all aspects of the teaching of reading, and why we invest in books. More than a decade ago, the AFT and First Book joined forces to give books to children who might otherwise not have their own. And I'm so glad that First Book is here with us today. Thank you, Kyle. So, and you saw it in the video already, as others have banned books, more than 700 AFT locals have organized hundreds of community book giveaways across the country. And this May, we hit an amazing milestone. We gave away our 10th millionth book. Experiential learning should be standard in our schools. Hands-on learning, debates, robotics, science fairs, service learning, student-led projects, and career and technical education. And as the Biden-Harris administration has remade the economy, the AFT and our affiliates have created transformative pathways to secure those new good jobs, many times right out of high school, including in healthcare and advanced manufacturing. Experiential learning is a sea change in public education, and the federal accountability system needs to change with it. No single test can measure what kids need to learn and be able to do to succeed in life. Projects, portfolios, presentations tell us so much more, and they resonate with students. So it is well past time to end high-stakes testing as the basis of federal education law. In a world in which teachers are expected to do it all, and when I say teachers, I mean teachers and all our support staff. In a world where educators are expected to do it all, and many families feel like they are on their own, we need to expand community schools to meet these needs, to make school the oasis in a very broken world, with wraparound services, health services, and after-school enrichment. It's time to make these schools the norm, not the exception. So none of this happens without adequate funding and without the amazing educators we all have the honor of representing and who are in this room. But now, school privatization is putting that funding and even the survival of public education in America at risk. The school voucher idea first took root in the 1950s after the Brown v. Board decision, when politicians in many southern states introduced voucher proposals so white families could evade school integration. By the 1990s, vouchers became a fixation of the religious right. And since 2010, the American Federation for Children, I did not make that name up, that is the name of Betsy DeVos's group, they have spent $250 million to push privatization and now boast that her spending has led to $25+ billion in government funding being diverted from public schools to private alternatives. Just grok that number. Proponents of vouchers used to argue that they were a way for low-income and minority families to transfer out of low-performing schools. But research shows that vouchers, on average, negatively affect achievement. And today, vouchers subsidize wealthy families who already send their kids to private and religious schools. Privatizers fund those giveaways by defunding and destabilizing public schools. Look at the fight here in Texas. I know Zeph talked about it a bit, but I want to just repeat it. Under Zeph Capo's leadership, Texas AFT fueled a coalition of parents, pastors, rural Republican, and urban Democratic legislators. They defeated vouchers not once, not twice, but 5 times. But did Texas Governor Abbott accept the will of the people? No! He declared war not just on public education, but on anyone who supported public education, including spending millions in primaries to defeat the Republicans who stood up for kids in public schools. And for all of you who live in states like California, Illinois, and New York, and you think it can't happen here, these billionaires and extremists have their sights set on you too. And that's why I'm so glad for the pro-public education campaigns our state federations in Montana and New York are leading. Why? Why do these extremists want to destroy public education? They fear what we do. The teaching of reason, of critical thinking, of honest history, of pluralism, because their brand of greed, of power, of privilege cannot survive in a democracy of diverse, educated citizens. They oppose democracy itself. The extremists want to cement their power and prevent others from having it. So they're going after education opportunity, economic opportunity, equal opportunity. They're going after the legitimacy of elections. And in case you think I'm exaggerating, the enemies of democracy have helpfully written down exactly what they intend to do. It's called Project 2025. Now, I got to take a drink of water before I tell you what's in there. It's a 900-page extremist wish list coordinated by the Heritage Foundation that they intend to implement in the first 180 days if Donald Trump wins. So here's a taste of what they'll do. Cut Social Security and Medicare. Let employers stop paying overtime. Strip health care protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Allow the government to monitor pregnancies and prosecute people if they miscarry. That's why I wanted you to hear it. Replace thousands of federal workers with ideologues, dismantle civil rights protections, end efforts to combat climate change, cut taxes for the wealthy, and weaponize the National Labor Relations Board against workers. Their plans for public education are equally draconian. Title I, gone. Swelling class sizes and eliminating paraprofessionals. Educators and public librarians could have to register as sex offenders if they disseminate anything the Heritage Foundation considers pornographic. And their holy grail, limitless funding for private and religious schools, leading to the end of the separation of church and state and the end of public education as we know it. It's all in there. And many of Trump's acolytes have been responsible for writing it. It's a path to autocracy. These extremists see it as a zero-sum game. To seize power, they must subvert ours. So, they remake the judiciary, roll back freedoms, reduce taxes on the wealthy, rig democracy, wreck public education, and restrict unions. Why? Because we, the people, stand in their way. The president of Heritage Foundation publicly warned, and I quote, "We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be." an explicit threat of violence. This, my friends, is the stuff of demagogues and dictators, not democracies. And tragically, our nation's highest court has become a dangerous tool in this regard. The last 2 years, the extremist activist majority on the court has rewritten the Constitution, thrown out long-settled precedents, scrapped environmental protections, eliminated the deference given to science and expertise while granting corporations new powers over us, and stripped individual rights, including women's freedom to make one of life's most personal and significant decisions. And now, the extremist majority on the court has granted presidents near total immunity and almost limitless powers, creating a rule of one, not a rule of law. They've laid the legal foundation for American autocracy. And again, I know this speech is long, but let me dwell on this for a minute. There is no presidential immunity clause in the Constitution. It's pretty much the point of the founding of our country, the rejection of a monarch, the rejection of imperial rule. Yet the extremist majority on the court fabricated out of whole cloth a power of kings expressly not granted by the founders. This is the moment we are in, and the moment when our nation must make a decision of enormous, lasting consequence. Who will hold the office of president, the office that the Supreme Court now says is above the law? So, to restate the obvious, we're in unprecedented times. Joe Biden has been incredibly effective at moving the country forward, and he's been a great president. But he's passing the baton, and we have to respect his decision. And because of the changed circumstance, the AFT Executive Council met last night, and we, subject to your vote, your ratification, we endorse Kamala Harris for President of the United States. Now, remember, it's subject to your ratification. Vice President Harris has fought alongside Joe Biden to deliver historic accomplishments and create a better life for all Americans. She has a record of fighting for us, fighting to lower the costs we pay, fighting for reproductive rights, fighting for worker empowerment, fighting to keep communities safe from gun violence. And as President Biden said in his endorsement of Vice President Harris, she has his full support to be the Democratic nominee for president. So, much has been changing, but we know one thing. Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. This will be a choice between two value systems, and only one lifts up freedom, democracy, pluralism, and shared prosperity. And it's a choice between two records. So let's do a little factual compare and contrast. Take the economy. Donald Trump passed trillions in tax breaks for corporations and for the richest Americans, driving up the national debt by $7 trillion during his administration. 3 million Americans lost their jobs over the course of his presidency. Herbert Hoover had the worst record of job loss in modern history until Donald Trump. Trump left his successor a country in crisis and chaos with soaring inflation and an economy in freefall. Do we all remember that? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris turned it around. They stabilized schools, saved pensions for hundreds and thousands of retired union workers, and remade the economy. They invested in our country's future, in our roads, our bridges, our ports, our electrical grid, our manufacturing sector, and yes, our schools, more than any administration in my lifetime. They passed the child tax credit, which cut child poverty in half. They got the Inflation Reduction Act passed, the bipartisan infrastructure bill passed, CHIPS, and they helped veterans sickened by burn pits. From insulin to junk fees to student debt relief, this administration is combating corporate greed. Medicare can now negotiate lower prescription drug prices for seniors, and the cost of insulin is capped at $35 per month. And instead of slipping into a recession, which was widely predicted, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris led our country through the COVID crisis to the strongest economic recovery in our lifetimes. 15 million new jobs and inflation down from 9 to 3%. I'll give you another example, and our rural communities in this room know this. Donald Trump promised to revitalize America's left-behind counties almost as often as he promised Infrastructure Week. It took the Biden-Harris administration to catalyze their comeback. In the last 3 years, these distressed areas have added jobs and new businesses at the fastest pace in decades. Yes, the price of bacon is too damn high. Yes, Americans are still struggling with higher prices, and more must be done on childcare, on housing, gas prices, grocery prices. But let me ask you, do we really believe what Donald Trump would do? Who do we really believe will take on the corporations that are gouging consumers on just about everything while raking in record profits? Say it again. Our planet is boiling, but Donald Trump offered oil company execs a deal. He'd scrap climate laws if they donated $1 billion to his campaign. The Biden-Harris administration has taken more action to combat climate change than any in history. Donald Trump takes credit for overturning the constitutional right to make reproductive decisions. Kamala Harris has led the fight to reinstate Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump bragged to members of the NRA that he did nothing to curb guns during his presidency. The Biden-Harris administration advanced the most significant gun safety legislation in decades. And on education, Donald Trump's education agenda is Betsy DeVos 2.0, stripping civil rights, diverting funding from public schools to vouchers, and essentially ending public education as we know it. The Biden and Harris administration, as I've said before, has made record investments in public education, including investing in teachers and school staff, community schools, HBCUs, and other colleges and career and tech education. Donald Trump stacked the National Labor Relations Board with anti-worker, anti-union members. President Biden is the first president to walk a picket line. And the Biden-Harris administration vigorously defends workers' rights to organize and bargain collectively. Trump sides with dictators and strongmen. He's callously called for Israel to, quote, finish what they started in Gaza. President Biden, joined by Vice President Harris, has rebuilt our international coalitions and have worked tirelessly for peace and for a ceasefire to that particular war. And what are their visions for the country? Donald Trump wants to help himself and his friends, expand his tax cut for the wealthy, deport millions of immigrants, and roll back all the Biden-Harris initiatives, starting with clean energy. Kamala Harris wants to improve people's lives, expand the Affordable Care Act, lower drug prices, make child care and housing more affordable, raise wages and raise the corporate tax rate, and make our country better for everyone. Donald Trump stokes conflict. I prayed that this near-death experience changed him. But the Republican National Convention demonstrated the opposite. As president, he wanted to use his official powers to have Black Lives Matter protesters shot. He said the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff should be executed. He sought to overturn the results of the election he lost. He promises retribution if he is returned to the White House and a bloodbath if he is not. And the Supreme Court has given him a blank check to do all of this. And then there's Trump's lying. Dozens in the debate. More than 3,000 lies during his presidency. From calling unflattering reports about him fake news to the big lie that the 2020 presidential election was stolen from him. Trump is not a blowhard mouthing off. He is a cunning master manipulator. Does anyone in this room doubt that if Donald Trump is given a choice between what is good for him and what is good for working families, which he would choose? Or that he would use the nearly unlimited powers the Supreme Court has granted him in dangerous ways? If your answer is the same as mine, then this election is not only the most important in our lifetimes, but in our children's and our grandchildren's lifetimes. It's going to be tough. The presidential election, the Senate election, the House election, every day matters. And yes, we must vote, but we must do more. In this world of alternative facts and disinformation, your voice, your activism is essential. You are trusted. You are beloved because you make a difference in the lives of others. Talk to your coworkers. Talk to your neighbors. Knock on doors. Write postcards. Put out the long sign. Slap on the bumper sticker. No one can do everything, but we can all do something. We can't risk regretting we didn't do more. There's a new musical on Broadway called Suffs. Anyone see it? It's about the movement to win women's right to vote. The lyrics from one of the songs, called Keep Marching, have been stuck in my head. Don't worry, I'm not singing it. Progress is possible, not guaranteed. It will only be made if we keep marching. The future demands that we fight for it now. It will only be ours if we keep marching. So, my friends, what will that future be? The best of times? The worst of times? It's still in our power to shape it. Progress is possible. So cast fear and despair aside for a moment and imagine what progress looks like. Imagine a country where a living wage is the norm, where families can afford decent housing, childcare, a vacation every once in a while, and people can retire with dignity. Imagine a country where all kids can be kids and have childhoods full of joy, learning, and adventure, where their bellies are full of nutritious food, they feel safe, and we prioritize their well-being. Imagine a country where every school is a school where educators want to teach, where parents want to send their kids, and where kids are excited to learn. Imagine a country where healthcare is a right, hospitals focus on patients over profits, and nurses and doctors and technicians are treated like the heroes they are, and so are bus drivers, teachers, and public employees. Imagine a country where technology and AI are used for progress, not for disinformation or to replace good jobs. Imagine a country where hate has no harbor and freedom rings. The freedom to vote, to live, to breathe, the freedom to marry, the freedom for families to make reproductive choices, the freedom to read, the freedom to teach, and the freedom to join a union. We are at a historic juncture. Our nation has made great progress because we organized and fought and marched and voted. The November elections will determine which path we take as a nation. Progress is indeed possible, but so is the eradication of the rights and freedoms we hold dear. Historians like Timothy Snyder and Heather Cox Richardson, who study threats to democracy and how fascists come to power, conclude that it is seldom a dramatic event or attack that lets fascism in the door. The violence comes later, after they are voted in. Voting is still our best defense against tyranny and fascism, and it's our best offense to create the better future we dream of and march for. Progress is possible, but not guaranteed. When the history books are written about this moment, let them record that we the people united, mobilized, and voted down this existential threat to democracy and freedom, that we continued the march for progress, that we laid the foundation